Everybody, good afternoon, wherever you're at. We'll get started here in just a minute. You are logging on for the battery only webinar with ESP. You're in the right spot. If you're looking for Christmas gifts, this could be a Christmas gift, but this is probably not the right spot.
This is the best Christmas gift you can give someone. Give them peace of mind. Let them
All
keep
right.
their wonderful Clark Griswold-esque, lighting array on their house up and running.
Exactly. Yep. Keep the lights on. We love it. Very
If you're
cool.
if you're anything like me, you've already watched Christmas Vacation at least once this year. So
At least once. Yep.
pretty
That's
funny.
funny.
Alrighty.
'Tis the season.
'Tis the season indeed. Well, I think we've got some people popping in here so we can get started. So we got our
Take it
agenda
away.
here, taking it away. So we're going to go over some concepts that should look familiar to some folks if you tuned in for our NEM webinars earlier this year, just to remind everybody about why batteries are cool and why it's a great idea to attach them to solar. And the really exciting part is that now we can attach them to basically anybody's solar, not just ones that we've installed, not just with solar as it goes out. You can go back to all of your previous customers who already have their panels and have been enjoying the benefits and give them even more benefits. So
Terms and conditions apply.
terms and conditions apply. We'll have a couple asterisks here and there through here, but yeah, we'll go over that. So just as a quick reminder, some of the top reasons why somebody would want to attach batteries to their existing solar. Obviously, the first thing that comes to mind is what happens when the power goes out. Normally with solar, you're still out of luck because you got to be tied to the grid, as we all should know, but we'll remind everyone solar does shut down if the grid goes down because you are a power plant. And if you're continually pushing power to the grid, you're going to zap somebody while they're trying to fix it. But with batteries, now you can become an island, is one of the terms they like to use. So you get to self-contain and still run off of the solar energy you generated. So that's really the biggest thing. Secondly, you do also get a little bit more control over your own usage. The self-consumption concept that we're so fond of this year does apply in these situations, especially if you are on time of use rates. And so that's going to depend on the utility. Andy, who are the top players who may be on time of use rates, the power companies. I mean, obviously the big three, if they went solar, more likely than not, or depending on when they signed up for it.
Yeah, if you're on, PG&E, SCE, San Diego Gas and Electric, you're most likely on some sort of time of use rate schedule where you're paying per kilowatt depending on the time of day. So that's why you get those weird things in the mail that say, do your laundry at night, not between the hours of 1 and 7 p.m.
Right. Yep. So the nice thing about this is, again, by attaching a battery to existing solar, you get to time shift it a little bit. You get to use that power when it's most valuable for you, which is whenever you're home, whenever you're actually going to use it. So that's something that I think a lot of people don't necessarily have in their top of their mind. They're like, "Oh, I got solar. Yeah, it's I'm saving money. It's great." But the solar is the most valuable to you when you are the one using that electricity, not sending it to the grid and expecting a fair rate of exchange, because we all know what the utilities like to do with people's power bills. Anyway, tax incentives are another big one. The 30% ITC did get expanded to batteries. So that's a big old chunk of change, just like solar. Real nice thing. And then lastly, there are some utility rebates. SGIP is the big one, self-generation incentive program. That we'll go over that on another slide. There's some other new stuff kind of coming out. I put it in here. It's not always going to apply, but VPP, if anybody is familiar with that, virtual power plants, that's something that is a big push in the industry across the country, if not the world right now, where kind of tying all your batteries together into one hive mind makes a virtual power plant. It's pretty cool. And so some utilities, some places will incentivize you for that. So again, our first asterisk of the day. So battery backup isn't magic. And this is something that we really want to, make sure everybody understands. This is all written out on our contracts and, all the legalese that you should ever want to read. But basically, we cannot support emergency medical equipment or life critical things. And I know that's sort of a bummer to hear, but it's because there's a few reasons, but basically, if you are in need of something that will keep you alive during an outage, the best thing to do is just talk to your emergency service provider, basically, or just have some other way to do that. We can't do well pumps. That's another kind of specific one, just because of the spike in power that it takes to fire them up. Can't do totally off grid. That's kind of, again, that magical idea that some people have in their heads of, oh yeah, I can just completely unplug from the grid. Still not quite the case. Can't back up multiple AC units. Again, just big, heavy electrical loads are going to be a challenge, not going to be the best thing to do. And then lastly, these do have to be attached to existing solar systems. For now, that's something that may be coming down the road where we can attach just batteries only and let people kind of play the buy low, sell high game later down the road. And yes, as Andy answered the question here, this does have to be attached to loans and purchase only. So we are loans are cash, not doing PPAs, not doing leases, any of that, just because those are, well, Andy, you can do a better job of explaining.
Yeah, so easiest way to explain that is we can attach to a system that somebody owns, not that somebody else owns, right? So a PPA is a third party owned system. Someone else is the owner of it. So I can't buy tires for a car that I don't own. I can't buy tires for your car, right? But I can buy tires for my car. So I can get a battery for a system that's on my house that I own or am purchasing.
Yep.
Hopefully that makes sense.
Good
We'll
deal.
see if that changes in the next year or so. I'm
see.
sure it probably will.
Yep. Again, there's lots of money flying around. So if some of these larger TPO organizations all of a sudden want to say, hey, you know what? We can get a bunch of money if we just plug everybody into a battery. Stay tuned. So good stuff coming probably. So here's kind of that concept that we touched on just earlier, that self-consumption. These should look familiar from when we had our NEM slides, but basically you're shifting your usage. So if you're able to use your power when you've got all the stored energy versus just send it straight to the grid during these peak hours, this is where you're going to get the most value out of your solar. It's really, again, it's keeping it for yourself. And that's a great thing. You don't have any control. We've said this, I think, on a couple webinars. You don't have any control over what your solar does during the day. It doesn't know that you're home. It doesn't know what you're doing with the power. It's just going to crank it out, send it wherever the first largest need is. And if you're not home and you're not using anything, that's going to be the power company. And they're going to get all that electricity, that wonderful, magical solar energy. So, all righty. Going over kind of our first discovery portion for any homeowner who's going to want to go for this. Andy, you're the master salesperson here. Do you want to talk through a little bit of the kind of that core need for somebody to want to, one of the reasons for somebody to want to go solar or go with a battery?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple different ways to look at how someone wants to add storage or battery or backup to their home. And in our eyes, I think there are three major ways you can do it. And this is tied with a solar system, which is one, there is self-consumption or arbitrage, where you're using that to offset the cost of your system. There's no backup with that. There's partial backup, so it only is giving you a little bit of backup for like a couple different circuits in the house, which is kind of the typical idea that most people, solar salespeople, have had in the past. And then the third is whole home backup, or just traditional solar backup. If the power goes out, the battery kicks in, the home has power. And it uses up all of the juice in that particular battery until the next day when the battery fills up again. And so that security motivated person, like you're seeing here, this is the person who you ask when you're in the house or when you're making a call to see if somebody wants to go solar or wants to have a battery, is basically, how often does your power go out? And they're like, it goes out all the time. And I hate it. And it bothers me so much. and I'm maybe a doomsdayer and I think the world's going to come to an end and the zombie apocalypse is coming, and I really want to have battery backup. That's the person that you're talking to right here.
Yep.
This is the person that you want to add like a bigger scale battery to. So 20
Yep.
plus kilowatt hour battery, like a Franklin or a couple solar edges or a few Enphases, you name it. Those are going to be the guys that are going to want this.
Absolutely. Well, and on the note of that person, the prepper minded person probably does have a generator already or something like
Mhm.
that, maybe. But guess what? Generators are really friggin' loud, and that is really a pain too. Like if you have to, if it's not one of the, you know, tri-fuel whatever, that's a real pain to keep that thing juiced up, and it still costs you a lot of money over time. Batteries are quiet. You're powering it with the solar that you already have plugged in. It's just clean. It's emissionless. You know, if everybody has generators, guess where the zombies are going to run? They are attracted to noise. You can't you can't get away with that. Batteries are quiet. Batteries will keep you off the radar. So yeah, and one of the things too that I like about just kind of talking through this, if there's anybody who is ever, you know, balking at the cost of it, which costs are coming down. Batteries are still, yeah, they're a little bit of a premium, but they're a good price. They're a fair price. They do pay for themselves. But you can also just kind of break down that same person. Hey, how often has your power gone out? What kind of pain did it cause you? What kind of financial hardship did it put you through? I mean, if you had a fridge full of food, that could be hundreds of dollars out the door. If you had to go to a hotel because you couldn't run anything in your house and you couldn't stay there, like again, that racks up. That sucks. So look at that and kind of amortize those over time, and that's a great way to pitch it.
Yeah.
Here we go off to the fine print races. The SGIP is something that we will automatically apply for on every job. More often than not, the homeowner is going to get it within a few months after the installation's finalized and all the paperwork is done. It adds up. It's a lot. I mean, for even for the minimum we're offering right now, which is a 5 kilowatt battery, that's $750, and it just goes up from there. A couple of the Franklins there, the 27.2, that's $4,000. So, and that's not even considering if they are in any of these places where they need extra backup due to, you know, the fire management type stuff. Again, I'll let everybody read the fine print. I'm not going to go through it, but yeah, it's good stuff. So again, there's plenty of help to available to help people get the cost down. Just as a reminder, here are our current lineups. You'll notice one of the options that we're offering right now, Q cells, is not on this list, and that is somewhat by design. But the reason for it is we can go back and hook up Enphase solar systems to Enphase batteries, SolarEdge systems to SolarEdge batteries, or Franklin to both. And there again, couple asterisks. There's a list in QuickBase that'll show you which ones are eligible and which ones aren't. But yeah, always a good idea to just do that discovery with the homeowner up front. If they've got an existing system that was installed by us, probably SolarEdge, could be Enphase. Those two cover the majority of SoCal, the market pretty much to date. You might run into SMA if you have a lot of previous customers who are on an SMA or who are on a system that isn't one of these. Put a list together and we might be able to come up with some kind of custom solution for you, but it's just not out of the box. So we're going for low hanging fruit, tying up that. So we put together a handy little comparison sheet. The reason that I put Tesla on here is that's probably the brand name that a lot of people will gravitate towards. And so we want to equip you with a few of the talking points there. There's all kinds of excellent reasons to choose any of these manufacturers, and there are options that are much less expensive and much more readily available than Big T. So here's the walkthrough. Again, this will be linked out. We've sent this out a couple times, but Andy, I believe you have one handy if you want to run through a little bit of this live just to show it off.
Yeah,
If
might
you're
as
ready for it.
well. Let's do this here. Let me bring this over. Just gonna share my screen here. Cool. So just like anything else you guys are going to do, we're going to go ahead and build a lead just like you would in QuickBase. And then you're going to choose battery only as the choice. Let's see here. And if you're not set up for battery only sales yet, you're going to get this fun little banner right here. Reach out to your account executive and we'll get the system turned on for you. We really implore you to reach out to your account executive and then watch the training video that we're going to send out with this as well before you even go live, just so you have a good idea of what to do. Once you create the lead and you choose battery only, you're going to see this little page right here. You're going to see the name of the customer, the address, their phone number, all that fun stuff. And then you're going to use these little details right here and go through right here. So yes, I have an existing solar system. Click it, click owned. If you click lease, it's going to say, sorry, can't do that. So then you're going to have to go back to owned. Then it's going to ask you some super simple questions. Was this existing system installed by ESP? Yes or no? What existing PV inverter manufacturer do they have? SolarEdge, Enphase? I don't know. Right? So you're going to choose one of these three. Then it's going to ask you some information about what type of inverter it is. If you don't know, then you click I don't know. So we're making it pretty simple. Similarly with the inverter model, you're going to put the number of panels, the wattage of the system itself, the panels that are on the roof, and then it will automatically build out what the system size is currently. You're then going to look at the main service panel, 200, 200. Let's say it's 100, 125 or 125 and 100. That's probably more the case. Then you're going to choose the utility right over here. Let's say it's SCE. Existing battery. Nope. Let's say we're going to do whole home backup or partial backup. Let's say we do partial backup. And then we're choosing SolarEdge. And then you're just going to work your way through it. Let's do capacity of 10. Awesome. Is there adequate space on the wall? So if there's anything within 15 feet, let's say they can put it there. Are any of the loads backed up by a sub panel? If there is, then there's a lot more work that goes into it. So we're just going to say no. Is it a preferred battery install location inside the garage or not? Let's say we're going to put it on the wall. If there is a little adder here, and it's because we have to add a thermal heat detection unit for that battery. So there's
Basically,
a lot more work
fancy
involved.
smoke detector.
Yeah, it's hardwired to the house and everything. Here's where you'll choose equity, resilience, or standard. If you choose equity resilience, there's going to be a whole bunch of paperwork and questions that you're going to have to ask. If you don't know what those are, then probably choose standard. Cool. So then you're going to work your way down here to what backup loads. Let's say I want to back up the Wi-Fi router, the TV, and some lights.
Throw the garage door in there too, just to be safe. Because if you got to get out of your house, you don't want to be.
Yeah, good call. Throw the garage door opener in there. Looks like the garage door is pushing it to a large load. So let's just take away. Let's take away some lights.
Oh, some lights.
That's interesting. That's doing that. But regardless, let's say we have, well, let's just put the lights back in there and we'll do lights are in there. And let's say you have, 4 lights. Oh, not 44. And move it from there. Then you want to save and keep working right down here at the bottom or right up here on the top right corner, just like you would in normal QuickBase fashion.
Now, if you're a QuickBase aficionado, you might be noticing that this looks a little bit different. We are updating all of the forms here. So this is the first one that we were able to get into the new look. So stay tuned for more of that. But anyway, sorry to interrupt. Keep going, Andy.
Yeah, no worries. Then you're going to work your way across these tabs here at the top. Finance details. This is where you can choose the funding partner that you want to use, like Dividend, GoodLeap, Mosaic, Service Finance, or even a cash deal. And then you can choose one of those. Let's just say it's Dividend, and we're going to choose the rate once that loads up. And let's say it's just you'll notice there's only 10 and 12-year loans because you can't take a loan for longer than what the battery life is or warranty is. So let's just say we choose the 10-year 699. There we go. We're going to go ahead and save and keep working. Yeah, and just like everything else, it's going to load up and get everything ready for you. You can also then go over here to adders. You're going to see everything added in right here. And then you can go to contract. You're going to see everything built in. It'll even show the commissionable amounts, all that fun stuff loaded in there. You can make up to 30% on the battery only portion of it. So like if you add a new inverter into it, if you have any other adders involved in the battery only sale, there's only commissionable amounts on the battery itself. And you can send your agreement right from there. And that's just a real quick share, but watch the video.
Yeah, we've got the full walkthrough up on YouTube. That'll go out with the recap here. So let's go back to here. And I think we're into our good old Q&A section. So I think we had a few that we tackled as we went, but Andy, do you have any that you want to
Yeah, let's see, Rob, for the SGIP rates, I will send out in this deck with the email to everybody who watched it, the SGIP breakdown through the state. You'll see how much money is there. In general, just think 15 cents per watt. That's going to be the general standard SGIP rate program and how it works. For the equity resilience, there are a lot of different things that come into play. Here's the thing. The homeowner's going to have to fill all that out. You're going to have to help them fill that out. We're going to send off the paperwork to do it, but they need to fill that information out to make sure that they qualify. So if they're in like a fire zone or if they have low income in a fire zone, then their SGIP rate goes up. Do a little research on your end. I implore you to, if that's something you're looking to do. But for the most part, 100% of the time, we're going to submit that standard SGIP for all of the customers out there.
A couple of these in here. Solar Insure is not currently available just for battery only.
Yep.
But
good question.
Stay tuned. We do have some kind of cool stuff that we should be working on. Might be a little bit later into the new year. But yeah, Solar Insure, you do have to attach solar and battery in order to get solar and battery coverage from Solar Insure. The NEM2 question, that was one of the big ones. This is the burning question in everybody's mind, right? As long as you do not change the inverter nameplate rating, they get to stay in NEM2. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
The battery, the addition of a battery shouldn't have any impact on them whatsoever.
Yeah. So the size of the inverter, the nameplate rating equals kind of the size of the inverter. That's the thing that's going to kick somebody out of 2.0 into 3.0. And so that's the beauty of being able to add backup or partial backup or soon self-consumption to a NEM 2.0 job. So it's going to keep the homeowner on NEM 2, which is cool. Let's see, Brian. Yes, we're going to have to do a site survey. We're going to have to make sure that the information that is there, that is added into the lead, into the deal is correct, meaning like, is that the size of the inverter? Is it compatible?
Do we have room for the battery?
Do we have room for it? All of the above. And just to be super frank, like there's a lot of stuff that goes into making sure that these things are going to work correctly and we're going to be able to install on all of these different homes. There are a lot of old solar systems out there. And so asterisks, like we may not be able to attach to some of these old school inverter types out there without adding a new inverter in. So if you have an old Fronius or I don't know I always liked the name Fronius for an inverter back in the day.
I'm so glad that you always use that one as the example.
Yeah, there's going to be a number of different ways that we can do it, but there's also going to be a lot of hoops that we need to jump through, but we'll do our best to make it so that you can help your customers out with battery only sales.
Great. As far as upgrading, I think that was kind of the part of the scope of work or anything like that. That is where, again, due diligence is really, really key for us. Like if you're talking to somebody and they've got solar, odds are they would love to brag about it. So take a little trip outside with them and just, chat about it, document what inverter size it is. If it is one of the older SolarEdge models that's just the HD Wave, not the hub, we can upgrade that as long as, again, we keep the size exactly the same.
Mhm.
But if it's the older Enphase models, the M series, M215s, M250s, that'll be a little harder to identify sometimes. Those are not compatible. And unfortunately, changing any of those out is going to kick them out of NEM too. So proceed with caution.
Yeah. Ahmad, for a couple of your questions about Fortress or Home Grid and DC coupled systems, our team's looking at a number of different solutions and options out there. We're
Yeah.
sticking with the stuff that we know and we're capable of installing right now that we are currently doing and plan on getting even better and better and better at it. So the bench will probably grow through the year next year. Let's see how this battery only thing takes off. If you're selling one deal a year, battery only, then it doesn't make sense to have 40 different choices,
Yeah.
right? If
Analysis
you're
paralysis.
doing one a day out there and this really turns into something that homeowners are needing and requesting, then yeah, man, like we want to help people out.
Yep. Yeah, like I mentioned at the beginning, if you run into a lot of homeowners where they need a custom solution that isn't just what we've got out of the box, which again, we remains to be seen how often you're going to run into that, but bring the list to us and we are always absolutely stoked to be able to see, okay, yeah, hey, here's like a trend that we can work on. Onesie twosie probably not, but if you got, yeah, couple handfuls at least, or I mean, yeah, depends. Just get a list together. We were happy to analyze it with.
Cool. I think we're really running through most of the Q&A that came through. Does this affect their main panel?
Good
Everything
luck.
affects your main panel.
Trick question.
Yeah, it definitely does. That's why we're asking, what the bus bar is and what the main rating is for the main panel in there, because it may trigger sometimes upgrades that are going to be needed.
Yeah.
We
The
don't like to do main panel upgrades, and so we'll try and avoid it at all costs.
yeah.
But what would you say, Dano?
That was exactly what I was going to say. If we can avoid MPUs being added to these at all costs, that's great. The cool thing is we do have some fun new options that let us kind of get around it.
Yeah.
Enphase has a thing called PCS, power control system. Without geeking out too hard, it's smart enough to recognize, okay, yeah, hey, we'll be able to kind of mitigate that. Oftentimes on some of these backup systems, we will be installing a sub panel or even basically a whole new main panel that we're just going to migrate stuff over. But
Mm.
if we can avoid having to replace and upgrade or relocate or any of that good stuff, yeah, we'll do it.
Awesome. I think we've really grinded through a lot of the Q&A. We've touched on just about everything in battery only. I really recommend that everybody watches either this webinar over again, but more importantly, go through the little video and training, create a battery test system within QuickBase. By the way, this is only able to be built in QuickBase, right?
Exclusive,
Yeah.
exclusively
So
available
it's
in QuickBase.
exclusively there, but give it a try, build it out. You may have that customer who you sold 3 years ago that's part of the NEM 2.0 program, and now they want backup, right? And you
Yep,
might really be able to help these guys out and you could
very
keep customers alive.
very likely. Well, just in wrapping it up here, as always, thank you everyone for being our partners. We really appreciate you guys. You're what keeps the gas in the tank. That's a fossil fuel metaphor. I should be using something better like clean energy because we are really leading the charge on what's coming next in clean energy. Like the way that solar and batteries work together is amazing, and it is truly going to help us keep this to be a sustainable and very healthy industry, not just in California but across the country. So you are helping us change the world every day. Never forget it. We appreciate you. Yeah, help us, help you, help homeowners. That's what it is all about.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks,
Hope
guys.
everybody, thanks for tuning in. Hope everybody has a very Merry Christmas, and we'll see you on the flip side in the new year.
Bye bye.